Warning. The following show is likely to switch topics faster than a Kardashian switches NBA players in bed. Caution is advised. We surveyed 100 people. Actually, no, just some dudes off the street about JB. And here are the top answers. Number 1, JB, I love JB. Did I say that right? Do I still get my Chick-fil-A gift card? Number 2, who? Number 3, I know JB. He don't know shit. And now he's got a podcast? This is What the Hell Do I Know with JB. JB, your friendly late-stage midlife husband, dad, and self-diagnosed ADHD connoisseur. This is all about candid conversation with friends, colleagues, and professionals, unpacking life's lessons and having a damn fun time doing it. And hey, sometimes we're going to veer off topic. But isn't that what makes life interesting? Let's talk about taking the good parts and leaving the bad. Because life's too short for unnecessary baggage. This is What the Hell Do I Know with JB. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right. We are back. I'm so excited to be back. I've got a great episode for you. And we have a great guest today. I'm so excited about it. Before we dive into that, I just really want to thank everybody that's watching. It means a lot. All the subscribers. We just surpassed 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's crazy.
These guys?
Yeah, it's nuts. Every time I see if I get one person that listens, it's absolutely.
You think they know English? They all know English.
They're translating this episode in 95 other countries. Yeah, so I don't know. They probably think we're the responsible Americans out there.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
But I could not be more excited. But a big shout out for everyone that watches this train wreck of a show. It means a lot to us. I think I was talking to you guys last week, though, how one of the reels we dropped, we got some trolls coming along, which I felt like was like a badge of honor.
You got to get the trolls.
It was so
then
good. We had that reel, and it talked about how vulnerability as a father can be your secret weapon or your superpower. And so I had people commenting like, how in the world could you use vulnerability and secret weapon in the same sentence? And I was like, okay. You kind of missed it.
Come on.
Yeah, you kind of missed what I was saying.
That was me, dude. I left that comment. That was my comment, bro.
Comment.
Oh, man.
No doubt. That definitely sounds like you.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was funny that, words mean something, but that isn't that serious. So, look, we're
not that serious.
We're a $10 podcast. We're $10.
$8. Something's going to break at some point in this podcast.
That's right. But today, our drink of the day is bourbon on the rocks.
Come on.
Hey, and when we drink bourbon,
what do we drink around
what
here?
do we drink? Chicken cock.
Chicken cock.
For sure. So
we got a special guest
absolutely,
today.
We got a special guest for you. So this is bourbon on the rocks. What I've done, the one twist I would say is it's the ice ball. We took the peel of the outside, the orange peel, and kind of used the zest to just sprig it up, open it up a little bit. So cheers everybody. Cheers. Absolutely, cheers everybody. Absolutely.
Yes.
So drink. This is our drink of the day, and as always, drink only if you are 21 and older, and drink responsibly. So our show sponsor today is our great friends over at Chicken Cock. I'm so excited about it because we have Matti Antilla. Did I say right? Antilla. We've worked on this. Antilla. Matti Antilla.
All right, you owe me $5. I told you to get it wrong.
Told me I get it wrong.
Let's go.
Pay up. Antilla.
You're close.
Well, and the good news is that's the last time I'm saying your last name.
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, so I want to dive into you in a second, but I want to introduce this. If you are in our audience, it's so cool. I was telling Matti that there was a person I know that watches. I'm not going to say where I know him because I don't want to throw him under the bus or anything. But super normal job. But I just don't want to put his work at risk or something because he's talking about chicken cock or whiskey or whatever. But at any rate, he said, I love listening to your pod. And he said the funniest thing you say on there is chicken cock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he told me, he said, you guys have to be selling bottles of chicken cock, and I was like, we need to track like how many.
Yeah,
I was like, we're trying to
Promo
get more and
codes.
more chicken cock available here in the Emerald Coast.
Yeah.
So we order it on.
It's coming.
Which is,
It's coming,
if
I
you don't
heard.
have it in your area, chickencockwhiskey.com. Chickencockwhiskey.com. You're going to see it on the screen. Chickencockwhiskey.com. It's whiskey from the days when you could name your whiskey chicken cock.
Right.
It's a legacy that dates back to 1856 in Paris, Kentucky. I always mess that up, Matti. I apologize. Paris, Kentucky, a town tucked away in the heart of Bourbon County. So chicken cock is incredible. And again, today we have my good friend Matti is Antilla.
Come on,
Antilla.
You said you were going to say it again.
I know, but I wanted to give a stab
Yeah,
at it.
$10.
Antilla.
Just call me Matti.
Antilla. Matti.
I parlayed it, dude.
Antilla. Matti Antilla. The founder of Grain and Barrel Spirits and the man responsible for reviving the incredible brand that is chicken cock.
Yeah.
So
Excited to be
Round
here.
of applause, dude. Round of applause.
Absolutely.
My new best friend.
We've had some great guests, but this one's going to be fun.
Well,
Top
we
3 for
drink
sure,
this.
yeah.
We drink this
Yeah.
on the show. I mean,
I know.
So this is, I think, our 17th episode, maybe. I think we've had chicken cock.
It's like 25% at least.
At least 5 or 6.
5 or
episodes.
6,
So we
7, yeah.
absolutely love drinking. We've had Dixie vodka as well
Yep.
and done some great vodka drinks
Yeah.
as well. So, but we're here to talk about chicken cock. Well, we can talk about any of the brands really, but anybody, before we dive into that, anybody have any new news that they want to share? Any new news? This is
Come on, I know what Brandon's in.
Yeah.
New
Okay.
news.
All right. Anybody out there knows I'm a big Bulldog fan. Been adopted into the
Yes,
dog
you are.
nation.
I love the hat today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It
go
goes with a
Dogs.
good background. And
Yeah.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. But I'm also a Hoosier, from Indiana. And if
Yep.
you're from Indiana, you're a Hoosier.
Hoosiers.
Hoosiers. So we're not really known for football, but we put up 77 points this week.
Right, you
So-
played a high
did,
school
dude.
team. It was a
Yeah,
good high school team.
It was impressive.
Yeah.
They actually kept
It was a
competing.
school record, dude. School record.
Did
School
they?
record.
Would you consider that they competed at that point when it's
We'll see.
77, like
You know what?
3?
We'll see. They got a big game coming up. So
Okay,
it's
who are they
UCLA.
playing?
UCLA. So when this airs,
Yeah.
we'll see how
Okay.
good the football Hoosiers really
Oh,
are.
that'll
Yeah.
be a real. That'll be a real.
Go to
We
the
had,
Rose
we,
Bowl.
we had Juice over here. in that
Come on,
episode.
man. We got to stop
Come on,
doing
man. That episode, he
They're
went,
still going to lock heads at some point.
he went so deep on FSU
That's
and how
real.
great they were going to be. And this was preseason.
Dude, my crystal
And it is
ball's cracked, man.
2 L's hung on them.
My crystal ball's cracked, dude. And then I said Georgia Tech national title game, and then they lost. So
They lost. Yes.
Georgia's
You're
gonna.
out.
Should I comment on?
No,
Georgia?
you need to stop
Okay,
talking
all right,
about
I won't do it
predictions.
'cause I
We're
won't.
not
All right,
predicting
all right,
things
all right,
at all.
all right.
Yeah. You need to not be predicting anything.
By the time this comes out, my new news will be my daughter should be almost 1 year old.
Yes.
Ah,
No way.
1
Yeah.
year.
Yep, I'm teaching her Finnish
way.
actually. Yep, she's learning Finnish.
Finnish.
That'll be a fourth language. That'll be a fourth language.
It's a major language.
Yeah.
It's Germanic. Wouldn't Finnish be German? Is it Germanic?
Finno-Ugric.
Finno-Ugric.
Yeah, so it's related to Hungarian. It's the closest
So
major language.
Matti Antilla.
Antilla.
Antilla. God, I was
dude,
closer to that version.
He was.
Yeah,
I
I was
was
closer.
closer to that version. Matti, you are Finnish.
My father's
Yes.
Finnish.
Do you speak Finnish?
I do.
Wow, that's amazing. And you grew up with that all around you, or you just picked?
No, I spent every summer growing
Okay.
up in Finland.
Really?
dude, that
Visiting
sounds
my grandparents.
awesome.
Very cool.
And they didn't speak English, so I had to speak Finnish.
And did they ever come to the? I mean, they came to the States. I'm sure.
Yeah, they
But-
came all the time.
But they lived in? Are they still here with us?
They are
okay.
not.
But they lived in Finland though full time their whole lives.
Yep, but they would come visit.
Okay.
Every other year or so.
Yeah.
And my grandfather would dabble at English.
Okay.
But not very good.
But you guys went back though. Like you said, every summer.
Yeah, a couple months every summer. We
That's
lived
very
down
cool.
in the country, and it was running around playing army in forests and lakes and fields. It
And
was
you just picked
awesome.
up the language.
Well, I went for the first time. I was maybe 6 months old, and I actually spent a year. Actually, I was about a year, and I spent a year and a half there. And so it really was my first language. And then I would go back every summer, and I never went to school there. So, if you ask my cousins, I say, he speaks like a native, but maybe something's a little off with him. There's something mentally.
That's great.
wrong,
That's
but-
great.
Yeah. So that's my Finnish.
That's awesome. We I think that's just kind of amazing.
That'd be
that
beautiful
culture,
countryside, yeah.
Absolutely, and have
Now I'm
that
gonna have to
culture
look
as
that
you're
up
growing
on
up
some
and
Finnish
seeing something
countryside
different.
photos.
Can you say
Because
something in Finnish? Like
You're certainly very American, but to have
yeah.
that side of it is pretty interesting.
like
Yes.
JB doesn't know my last name.
Well, so here's what I always say when people ask me to say something in Finnish. It's a nursery rhyme that I learned when I was quite small. Kevät tuli lumi suli boro sano puli puli.
Yeah, that sounds great, but what does that mean?
So it's spring came, the snow melted, and the reindeer said, "Yay, yay."
Okay, that's wonderful.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Gosh, I wish I had that line.
That's amazing. But I would think that you may lose that ability to speak Finnish when you're not. I mean, you're not going every summer back to Finland like you were when you were a child. So, how do you keep that? How do you keep that going?
So when my grandfather was alive, it was easier because we, interacted a lot. And so he passed away about 10 years ago. I still have family there. So, every once in a while speak to them and they're generally, especially, the older generation, they don't really speak English. So, and then just recently or last Thanksgiving, I took my family to Finland for a week and went up to north of the Arctic Circle, saw the Northern Lights.
That's
and
awesome.
Did all that, and so now when I go back, it takes me a day or two to kind of pick it back up.
Yeah,
But then it's when you learn something when you're that young,
Kind of
it's
riding
just-
a bike, but
yeah.
you just need to get
Your
back
brain
into it a
just
little
kind
bit.
of kickstarts back.
It gets right back in.
So it is true. If you don't use it, you lose it.
That's
If
true.
you don't use it,
That's
you
true.
can lose it. Wow. That's a good.
That's true.
You said the most prophetic thing I've ever heard.
Definitely from a movie.
So my new news is I met with our good friend Mike Anderson. We did a pod with him. I think
Yep.
it was
Episode 9?
Yeah. I
Sounds
think
right,
that's right
yeah.
around there. The power of discipline. And in fact, Matti and I had a chance. Well, we all had a chance to go and do a tasting there at Mike's
it's
shop
pretty
the other
dope.
night. And so we're about to rip our grill area out. So if you watch any of my kind of cooking with JB, the leftovers episodes, I'm
They're
really
pretty good.
excited.
Yeah.
I'm really
I like
excited
'em.
to see my grill area get.
I'm excited for it as
damn,
well
man,
since
I'm
I
ready
watch
to put
football.
bacon.
It's going to be
meat.
off the chart. So
I'm
Mike
so
is
ready.
is designing up. I should have 3 or 4 different grills and burners, and hopefully kind of an outdoor kitchen that will allow us to do some really cool.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we
stuff.
do,
And
but
we do,
this
but
is a
I
whole
think it's
nother
just
level.
going to
Yeah, you're putting a flat
Punch
iron
it
in the
up.
middle, right? Or what do you call it? Is that flat iron?
Yeah, it's not Blackstone. It's
Blackstone,
another,
yeah.
but essentially it's kind of like that. People might know
That's
that
gonna be dope,
brand.
man, yeah.
I'm super excited. I'm super excited about it. I mean, it's amazing what a $10
I like to
podcast
eat.
can
Yeah,
do.
I like to eat.
But I'm super excited about the grill area. That's going to be off.
We'll have chicken cock all around it.
Absolutely,
Just
100%.
every flavor known
Yeah.
to chicken.
Well, if I'm drinking
Man.
bourbon,
Man, what I had last night, I'm telling you.
Oh,
I'm sure we'll
man.
get into it.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Lord.
We'll get into these different brands we have labeled out. So when you see the wide angle shot, if you're watching this on camera, you're going to see, and we're going to dive into different flavors we have here. But it is now time to play What the Hell Do I Know
Oh man,
with Matti. No last name.
don't say it.
So
Nice save.
I was going to try again, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it.
You almost
I
got
feel
me
like
to try it.
I
I'm
feel
like,
like
nah,
I might have it, but I'm not going to.
You gonna whisper it to me and I'll tell you?
We're not whispering to each other in here. This show obviously gets off the rails. If you're watching this is like ADD. But here we go. What the hell do I know with Matti? Now, 7 questions, rapid succession. You can pass at any time. So I'll put the clock on, and we will begin. Where's your favorite vacation spot?
Bali.
Nice. We had somebody else say something.
Jay Smooth.
Yeah, Jay Smith. 2. How long have you been married?
19 years.
Oh, he was ready.
Congrats.
Yes. Jennifer will be proud. Number 3, if you had one thing left to eat on the planet, what would it be?
Taqueria burrito in Princeton, New Jersey.
All right.
Oh, very specific.
Nice. I actually really like that. All right. Favorite part of being a father?
Watching my kids grow up.
That's awesome. That's very cool. Now, I know you paddleboarded from the Bahamas to West Palm.
Yep, twice.
What?
How long did it take you to do that?
First time was 16 hours. Second time was 14 and a half.
Nice. So you beat that record. Nice.
Holy.
All right. When did you start liking bourbon?
Probably
12, 13?
Probably as I got close to 30.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair. What is your favorite bottle of chicken cock?
I love our everyday Kentucky straight bourbon.
It's so good.
Our flagship.
That's what we're drinking right now. That is what we are drinking right now. And with that, you did an amazing job.
right. Good
You're
job,
off
yeah.
the hot seat.
Man.
An amazing job.
He handled it.
What is that, like 90 miles from the Bahamas? Or,
Just under 90.
Yeah, that's insane.
You did this for a charity cause, right? I remember you were posting about it, and
Yeah,
I think we
Piper's
might even talk
Angels Foundation, which is cystic fibrosis
That's
charity. Yeah, it was great.
And
It was
you would have others
long.
that were I mean, you had safety boats and all of this sort of
Yep,
thing.
we
and
had a
you-
safety boat.
Right.
I had some guys paddling with me.
Okay.
But yeah, it was amazing. We raised the first year almost $600,000.
Oh, wow.
And then,
That's awesome.
yeah, so it was. Yeah, it's become a bigger and bigger event. Yeah, it's cool.
That's really cool. What a great cause, because cystic fibrosis is such a weird thing, and I could go down a weird
I'm not too familiar with it. I
hole
feel
with
like
this.
I kind of know what
So
it is.
it's a very unique disease, and it's a lung disease that's really passed down genetically.
Okay.
One from everybody has a trait. You have typically most people carry a two good traits on their CFTR mutation or gene in their lungs, and essentially the easy way for people to understand is you create a mucus inside of your lungs, and then you have a gene though that takes that mucus to the top and then can clear it out of the lungs, right? Well, people born with CF and cystic fibrosis, their mom or dad have passed down. Each mother and father gives one gene to the kid that creates this CFTR gene. But if one parent has, so what's weird about it is you can be totally normal, but you have a mutated gene. So if you have one good gene and one bad gene in you, which is me, then I'm fine because my lungs act normal.
Yeah.
But, my wife, though, if she has both good genes, then it doesn't matter. I could pass down a bad gene. She's only going to pass one good gene down, and they could be what's called a carrier at that
Gotcha.
point. But if she has a mutated gene and we have 3 kids, then you have a chance, essentially like 25% chance that she could pass a mutated gene and I could pass them, and then you have 2 mutated genes. And traditionally in CF, the traditional CF, when you have 2 mutated genes, the life expectancy when they started discovering this was very young because it also affects your eating. You're not absorbing nutrients. So kids were dying actually of malnutrition into their early teens and 11 and 12. But it affects maybe 30,000 kids, 40,000 in the U.S. It's really crazy. So here's what's really, 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 really weird here. Is the reason why I followed along on this, and we donated a lot to cystic fibrosis, is when my first was born, we did a genetic test. I'm a carrier, found out my wife's a carrier. And so with our son, she passed down a bad gene, and I passed down a bad gene. So Jackson has cystic fibrosis. Now here's what's really weird, is her particular mutation of the gene, and when it links up with my particular mutation of the gene on this, call it like a ladder system. They call it alleles. But where it links up on that ladder system, it actually produces enough to be like a carrier. And they were in a very, very, when they were younger, case study in Atlanta, following them along, because when you think about a small group of people that have it, there's even a smaller, you're talking like tens of people that have that kind of mutation.
Wow.
And that act normal. So it was really helpful for them to understand how that works. And now they've come up with incredible drugs that are helping the nutrition side, incredible drugs that are helping chaperone the disease because of great work like you.
Yeah.
And children are now seeing life expectancies into their, if you were born with it today, you could be in your 60s. I mean, they're seeing
every
incredible
year
life expectancy.
it adds
It's
another
increasing.
year.
Right. I mean, 20 years ago, I think it was in the 30s.
Yep.
So now
Oh, wow,
I think
that's
you're
awesome.
getting,
That's
I mean,
great.
yeah, so it's really incredible stuff that Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, I mean, out of all the foundations out there, they really are just, they were so dialed in on finding cures for
Sounds
this.
like it,
So
dude.
it's
That's
really
amazing,
pretty
yeah.
amazing story. So that, so
Yeah.
really
Well,
weird
and-
tangent
and-
here.
And
Yeah.
I'd say organizations like Piper's Angels Foundation comes in. So it was started by a great friend of mine, Travis, whose daughter Piper has cystic fibrosis. And with all the advancements that are happening in that space, as people have longer life expectancy, the costs just increase to the family because you're still having to have lung transplants and all that stuff. So Piper's Angels Foundation has really come in to help support the families and help with some of the research and there's a lot happening internationally as well. But
it's great.
It's great. Life expectancy is increasing, but it's that much more expensive for the families, and so they're kind of stepping into that void too.
When we were learning about it and our kids were young, first you just don't know.
Yep.
And so you start hearing the horror stories and seeing the horror stories, and you're just really affected about it. And it's tough as a parent, and so I can only imagine. I sympathize with those parents going through that, but I'm sure the children and what they're dealing with as well. So it's really tough. We were just so fortunate that when we finally got through actually doing these genetic tests and looking at things and mapping them out, we were like, wow, we are in this like crazy unique world where his lungs work perfect.
Yeah, he seems totally normal to me.
Well, he is.
He
is. They've tracked it for so long, and there was actually doctors that would say we don't even need to label it as cystic fibrosis.
Yeah.
But because it's such a unique genetic disorder, they wanted to follow how is this happening? Why is this happening? And how could we mimic that for others?
Yep.
And so, but traditionally people don't have. Like I went down, I was like Delta F508, R117H. I mean, I knew all these different codings on these different things because as a father, you start.
Yeah, you're invested, dude.
You are like
you're all in.
You're an expert.
Yeah.
You are wanting to be an expert about it. So
Yeah,
I know these parents are so involved, and I think it's really cool that you guys did that. But back to the show.
Yeah, we're back.
So we came off the hot seat. You nailed it. Paddleboarded from the Bahamas. Absolutely did an incredible job. I want to give you a chance to give us like kind of the 90-second helicopter view. It can go longer. It's we're here for you. But story about like Matti and how you got into what you're doing. What's going on?
Yeah, so I've been in the spirit space for about 20 years now. So longer than I expected to be in it. Grew up in Southern California. Father was from Finland, mother was from Alabama, grandfather was in the Navy. So
you don't get much of that Alabama-Finland connection, do you?
No. It was,
in California,
in California.
Finland, Alabama, California, all over the place. Yeah. But family moved out to California, when my mother was young. And so that's where I grew up. And then, really was excited to get out of California, went to the East Coast for school, watched Wall Street way too many times as a kid, so I wanted to be like Gordon Gekko. Didn't quite understand that he was like the bad guy in that movie. And so went into investment banking after college. Was at JP Morgan, was between New York and Brazil doing natural resources banking, like oil and gas, water deals, power deals, stuff like that. And when I was down in Brazil, I really came to the realization that I didn't want to be an investment banker for the rest of my life. That the movie had steered me in the wrong direction.
Right. Guy was Hollywood,
not
right?
accurate.
Got him.
Yeah, they were like, this is not true. And so, but wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. Loved Brazil. Loved the people, the culture, and so wanted to do something that from Brazil, but to bring it back to the United States. Yeah. And especially it's one of those countries where you have this very kind of exotic image of Brazil, helped by like Giselle and things like that, and samba and Ipanema, and but very few Americans have actually been to Brazil, right? So you could kind of package it in this like really cool way, and so I looked at a couple different categories down there, wanted to do something in the consumer space, looked at coconut water. Unfortunately, didn't do that.
Yeah.
That became a massive multi-billion-dollar category.
Right.
And instead went for an obscure spirit called cachaça, which is the national spirit of Brazil. A lot of it sold down in Brazil, very little outside of Brazil. And so that's what got me into it. It's basically pure cane rum.
Yeah.
So got into that, launched a brand called Cabana. And then just kind of built from there and learned my way, made a lot of mistakes, still make a lot of mistakes.
Sure.
But it also helped. I didn't know anything about the industry, and I always find if when you don't know anything about something, it's a little easier to try it.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably better.
Yeah.
No baggage. But,
That's honestly sometimes the good thing, right? That's the
Yeah.
risk as an entrepreneur, to just dive in.
Yeah. And, and people, come to me all the time and say, should I do this? I have this idea to start a new tequila. And, my instinct is always like, no, do not do that. Because I've now been in the industry for 20 years, and I'm like, man, there are just so many challenges.
Do you like your life?
But that's what the world needs, is people who are like, well, I have this idea, and I'm inspired to do something, and it's like, have at it, just.
I say it all the time. Our country's built on incredibly big, just huge risk takers.
Yeah.
And
the whole country. It's founded.
Generations of risk takers.
Yeah, we need to
and we need to
that.
continue to press that out, because that's where creativity came from. That's where these businesses came from. That's where, why we have so many great things in this country. I've said it before here. I read an article the other day that America produces more billionaires than any other country in the world. And I'm not advocating for everybody to be a billionaire. Some days I wonder, we should probably, I saw a meme the other day, and it was like, when you get to $999,999,999, you should just give everybody a trophy and then say the rest needs to go to something better. Like you wanted life.
That's right. You're good.
So, right. So you don't know, I get it, but it is, to me, though, it says more about our country and the opportunity than talking about whatever your opinion is on billionaires. We're not here to discuss, but we just produce a great amount of wealth.
You can create wealth
in the country. I was in New York at the U.S. Open, and our cab driver was taking around. He was asking where we lived, and we talked about some of the projects we're working on. He asked what we do, my wife and I. And we were talking about some of the homes we build and some of the businesses we invest in. This, and he goes, "I just feel like I'm the only poor person, in America these days, or something." He just had this woe is me kind of talk, and I said, "Brother, you are driving. Is this yours?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "This is a Lincoln, Navigator, and it's in great shape." And he's like, "Well, do you have a home?" "Well, I've got a townhome. It's got a mortgage." "Do you have?" So you are working towards owning property? I said, "And then you live in this country." I said, "You are vastly richer than most people on this planet."
99%.
And sometimes you have to just change your
perception.
Perspective. Well, and that negative perception stops you from taking the risk, right? It can just kind of halt you in your shoes. This is the best I can do.
Yeah.
Why does everybody else got it?
Exactly. Comparison.
Yeah. Right. FOMO is big. It can be good to spur you on. It can
but it can
little
be
bit.
damaging
It can be damaging. It can be really damaging for sure. So this episode we're titling brand building. Well, actually, you may not be done taking us through that story though. You started those brands and then
let's keep going. Sorry.
Let's keep going.
Yeah,
Jumped in. I apologize. It's that ADD.
Little
ADD.
Whose podcast is this, bro? Come on, settle down.
Got in the industry.
$2.50
Met my
podcast.
wife, got married, had 2 daughters. Moved to a bunch of places. Now live in Charleston, South Carolina, which is a wonderful place to live.
Yeah.
And
Shout out Charleston.
as we'll get into, stumbled across Chicken Cock whiskey and and then decided that it was just too good not to bring back to life.
That's what's so great about it. And by the way,
it's
I mean,
it's okay.
This is amazing.
It's okay, but I need a refill.
Is there any refills?
You know what's crazy is this orange little zest of the peel.
Yeah,
really does change the little bit of. I actually kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
You've done that before, right?
No,
I mean,
it's great.
Yeah, I'm talking to an expert here. I mean, of course you've done this. It's really interesting.
It's great.
I probably should have told you before the show I was allergic to oranges, but it's
we're
really
gonna
good.
If you blow up,
it's really good.
That's going to be the
Juice,
best thing ever. Your name is Juice. Yeah,
It is.
yeah. You like the Orange Bowl.
Worth the squeeze. Let's go.
So this topic's brand building. We're going to dive more into the story. I'm sorry about that ADD. We had a garbage company. That story. We were kind of a regional garbage company and did really well outside of in Metro Atlanta area, and were able to exit that. Gosh, many years ago at this point. But when we had our garbage company, though, we used to have drivers that occasionally would take it on themselves to veer off their schedule. They'd have a route sheet. So you start at stop 1, and some of them might have 400 stops if they were maybe in a rural section of the county. Some of them, as they got closer to Atlanta, could have 1,000 stops. But you could go through one and traditionally work your way down to whatever the end number was, right?
Yeah.
But you would have guys that would veer off this schedule. They would think, a lot of times it's around holidays or something like that, if there's a traffic pattern. And so they might start in a subdivision, 3 sheets later, on their route book. They might jump in there because something else was blocked off. So now you're going into this subdivision at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, waking people up.
Look,
It's not a normal thing.
It's not a normal thing. You would get some calls about that, but the biggest problem is it, and they would act like, well, I didn't know it would cause a problem. Of course they did, because they would ride through this subdivision 6 in the morning, and 25% of the cans would be out. You can tell a consumer to put their can out at the night before, but they're creatures of habit.
Yeah. So
if you're coming by at
3.
10 or 11, they kind of set their watch to when the garbage.
They roll it out
comes
before
by.
they go to work. Yeah, I mean that makes
exactly
sense.
right.
Makes sense.
So if you go in at some place at 6:30 that you're normally there at 11, you kind of screwed them up.
Yeah, you can't do that.
You kind of screwed them up. And so what we knew that was a problem. Even if the drivers tried to play it off, they knew too. But your audience has kind of expectations of service levels. I mean, when you're building a brand, how do you make sure you're kind of meeting those expectation levels?
Yeah, I mean, every brand is different, right? So I think, part of what's made our journey, I think, unique is it is a level of creativity. And we really started when we started bringing back the brand. I mean, whiskey you're playing a long game.
Right.
When you're laying down whiskey,
right.
you're waiting 4+ years before you're putting that in the bottle. So,
right.
You have to take a long perspective on things. But what that also allows for a lot of creativity, right? You can do different expressions, you do different barrel finishes, you do really cool collaborations, which we do a lot. And a lot of times it's kind of to keep the, distilling team, kind of interested and engaged, and because otherwise you're just staring at barrels for a really long time, and
playing at music, right?
Right, and playing at music, or trying to put it on a boat and drive around somewhere and create a marketing spin. But,
right.
Nothing's against Jefferson, they're great.
Yeah.
But so when we first started laying down our own whiskey, we had a period of time where we were like, well, we got to do something while this bourbon is aging, and so we started doing these limited releases and getting really creative around them and doing really cool things, bringing back the historical brand around the labels and packaging, and that really, I think, set a precedent.
Sure.
And so now it's like, how do we, while we have our flagship that's growing and it's doing great and it's hopefully available as many places as possible, is what are we doing those 2-3 times a year where we're introducing something that's on a limited basis, that's really creative and unique, and we need to keep doing that in a way that kind of keeps our customers engaged, especially our kind of core fans, right? They're expecting those releases, and they have to be creative, they have to be well thought out, and that's kind of one of the big things I think our fan base expects is, when we drop something, it's going to be really unique. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be really well thought out, and it's going to be something that they can show their friends and be proud of.
Absolutely. That's so awesome. Yeah, I feel like when you drop, you're like flexing your.
Yeah, I just thought, do y'all do seasonal flavors?
Cha-ching for the new language.
Yeah.
That's reaching to your youngins.
Yeah.
Yeah, like seasonal flavors, right? That means you do seasonal stuff as well, or?
Yeah, we always do a holiday release.
Okay.
And the holiday release is always a barrel finish. So last holiday we did a Petite Syrah barrel finish.
Which we've got
3
out here, the stave.
Okay. Oh, that was the red stave? Okay.
Yeah.
That one is good. We tried
Petite
that
Syrah.
one.
Which we collaborated with a great company out of California called Miller Family Wines. And then this year we're doing a Mizunara oak barrel finish, so a Japanese Mizunara oak barrel.
Perfect.
Really?
We'll drop a picture of that. So if you're watching it, we'll drop a picture of that.
We've done cognac barrel, we've done beer barrel finishes, we've done a really great rum barrel finish, and so that's always around the holidays.
Okay.
And then and then at other times, sometimes we'll do a summer release that'll be, kind of play up some kind of fun summer notes. And then we do, a good number of collaborations where we'll do stuff with like Garden and Gun or Field Ethos or cricket shirts, and that can be something unique on the liquid side, but also really working with that partner to come up with like a really cool label, do something funky with the rooster.
Sure, what a great way to introduce their brand to your fans and
vice versa.
Your fans to their brand.
Yeah, I saw you teamed up with Kevin Kistner, the 4-time PGA winner, right?
Yep. We've done a bunch with Kiz. which has been great.
Yeah.
And then
He likes bourbon on the rocks. If I remember correctly, I think that was they said, "What's the favorite way to drink chicken cock?" He said, "Just
on the rocks." Yeah.
he might have been neat.
Duh.
Even, yeah.
Yeah.
He just likes it straight up.
Yep. No, he definitely is a fan, and so and it's fun. I mean, and that's part of building a brand is how do you kind of get a sense of who your audience is, but you have to keep expanding it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
Got to integrate marketing. Yeah, you gotta.
you figure out who some of those partner brands are that maybe have a bigger audience than you or a different audience, and you work together, and hopefully some of their audience sees your brand, and then they adopt it, and you learn a lot too of who it's resonating with, maybe who it's not, and then once you figure out kind of what's working, you just hopefully lean into it and
try to make sure that you're, I assume tracking numbers and things of that nature on the back end is also so important in understanding your audience, right?
Yeah.
So when you have a collaboration, is that hitting with the group? Is that hitting with our core audience? Is that, not everything's going to work for
not
sure,
everything's gonna work.
but you do need to be able to, I guess, quantify it, right?
Yeah, and then now with we have more ability to sell direct now than we ever had in the past in the industry. A lot of that was helped by COVID, where and a lot of states would start adopting rules that they had in place for craft brewers and wineries and stuff.
Yeah.
And so using like the direct to consumer route, both online, but now we have a tasting room in Bardstown, downtown Bardstown, where we can interact directly with that end consumer. We get a lot of data from that, and we can tell if we drop something, we know how quickly it sells out. Some things happen really fast and some things take a little longer, and so then we can kind of make some conclusions from that, and you just kind of accumulate all that information, and hopefully each time you do something again, you just do it a little bit better.
Absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I also think sometimes knowing the story of the brand also helps to build that audience and get people to buy into it. And I know we kind of jumped it a little bit with my ADD, but you were really started researching. You were telling me you started researching kind of historical brands as you were doing, going through this Brazilian rum and things of that nature. After you exited out of that brand, you started looking at the history of whiskeys and going down that. Can you kind of walk us through how you found, because I tell everybody it's essentially it's one of the oldest bourbon brands around in American bourbon brands. Around. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah. So I would say if I hadn't gone this route in my life, I think and there was a period in college where I was like, I want to be a history professor. And then my history professor talked me out of that. He's like, you won't make any money. And I was like, all right.
Were you stupid?
I was like, I kind of want to do this. He's like, don't do this. Go make money.
Probably the best history professor on the planet.
Right. He was great. But but I've always loved history. It's just if I'm reading a book at home, it's usually on some aspect of history, and I just I really geek out on it. And so I've always been interested in old brands in particular, but in like brands that kind of were big, don't exist anymore, and this idea of kind of bringing back this legacy. And so when I was starting to really look into different areas of the spirits world that you had a lot of where heritage mattered. There's certain things where the consumer's not really, they don't care how old something is, right?
Sure.
It's a little bit more of like, what are you doing today?
Yeah.
But there are certain categories, and whiskey is one of them, where like provenance and history are a big factor in consumers' interest. And so, I started looking into the early days of distilling in the United States, and we had the misfortune of having prohibition, but the benefit of prohibition was you've got this whole archive of brands that were like big before prohibition that were basically wiped out, right? And so if you start getting back into the history of it, you've got there were thousands of brands, hundreds of distilleries. So so if you go back into the into the archives, there are thousands of brands, hundreds of distilleries. And a lot of those were wiped out by prohibition. Those that survived were then, a lot of them, ended up not surviving World War II when the distilleries moved to, war use. And then after World War II, when you had all the GIs come back, you had, people had discovered other things. So, you had, imported spirits that start coming into the market. You had, in the 70s, it wasn't until 70s you had the first imported vodka come into the U.S. market.
Really?
And so, it's a relatively recent thing that we have this abundance of different types of spirits to consume. Is back in the day, it was whiskey, right? And it was a lot of rye whiskey too. So the old westerns where they go up to the bar and take a shot, and it's like Grimace. It's it's rye whiskey.
Okay,
got a little punch to it.
Yeah, that had a punch. I mean, it was meant to solve a problem.
Now, would that be the same rye? When you say rye whiskey, would that be what people think today when they get a rye whiskey, where it's labeled like this is a rye?
Yeah, so it's going to be like 95% rye, and what a lot of people don't realize is that a large portion of the rye whiskey back in the day came out of like the Maryland, Pennsylvania area. So like Maryland rye was like a really popular thing. But out of the Kentucky area, you had bourbon, which was higher corn on the mash bill, and so a little sweeter, not as spicy and hot, and so. That was, I started looking into that part of, kind of early, it's like the beginning part of the 19th century. And, there are just tons of brands of really interesting things. But I found this brand, Chicken Cock. And it kept coming up in my research. I was like, what is Chicken Cock? I mean,
right.
It's a cool name. Like, I got to find out a little bit more about this. And so what started out as kind of just intrigue versus, around a name. I started kind of digging in and realized pretty quickly, oh, wow, this is a big bourbon brand in the 19th century, one of the biggest. You're finding old advertisements for it. I went to the Oscar Getz Museum of American Whiskey History in Bardstown, and they had, a dozen bottles of pre-Prohibition Chicken Cock on display.
That's amazing.
Old ads, and, and then I would say the deal, sealer for me was I found out that it was the house whiskey at the Cotton Club.
I think that's amazing, right? I think that's so cool.
Duke Ellington writes about it in his memoirs, and if you wanted a table next to the stage at the Cotton Club, it's like going into a club today where you have to buy bottle service.
Yeah,
right. You would have to pony up. And the most popular purchase was Chicken Cock, and they would bring it out. At that point, it was all the
Prohibition, right?
Gone up to Canada, so they'd smuggle it in these sealed tin cans. So you'd have a sealed tin can with the glass bottle inside. Waiter would come over, would ceremoniously open the sealed tin can, pull out the bottle, and so at that point it was known as the whiskey in a tin can.
Very cool.
And so it had this really cool story to it, and he writes about it in his memoirs. Francis Ford Coppola includes Chicken Cock in his movie The Cotton Club from the early 80s. And so all this stuff started coming together. I'm like, this brand has to come back.
A lot of history.
Such great history.
The last reported sale that I could find was in the 50s. And then, the original distillery in Paris County burned down.
Gotcha.
And so the brand just kind of went away. And so, it was basically a dead trademark. And so we were able to, claim that mark. And then we had enough, old bottles and old liquid and advertisements, all this stuff that we could kind of piece together the history even to the point where we were able to take bottles from the museum on not stealing but on loan,
right.
And getting the
start to recreate some of that stuff, right?
The original bottle. We spruced up the rooster. We gave him a little bit more heft. He was a little thin back during Depression.
Depression era.
Surprised there any running around then, right?
Yeah, but and one of the cool things people always ask me about the name is Chicken Cock's just a rooster. So it wasn't until the 1890s that the term rooster started getting used.
Right.
And I would assume that's because at that point, the term cock, is made some farmers, good Puritan farmers, a little uncomfortable.
Right, so they wanted to change something.
Right, so they started calling it a rooster, but, a lot of male birds are cocks. You go overseas, they're still calling, the roosters cocks. And, if you're a Gamecock fan,
Right, there's plenty of, we've taken it and kind of made it taboo, but, I mean, 100 years ago, it's Chicken Cock.
Well, and the other thing is, if you think about a cocktail,
Yeah.
Sure.
A cocktail. There's various theories around how that became named a cocktail, but probably the most prominent is what they would do is they would mix the drink and they would take a rooster's feather, a cock's feather, and they would stir the drink.
I did not know
it became
that.
a cocktail. And so, every once in a while I'll get a bar manager or somebody who's like, I don't really like the name. And I'd point
You
to...
might be in the wrong business.
Right,
You
business.
might be in the wrong business.
Well, and I'd point to the list next to him. I said, "What's that?" He said, "That's our cocktail list." And I was like, "Yeah,
It says cock in it.
It says cock in it."
Now I want to know where
that's so great.
how that name came about of genitalia. How did it get the nickname?
Right.
Like how
Off
did
the rails, juice.
That is
No,
off the
I mean,
rails.
how did
we
it
may have to do a
transpire?
deep dive. There's probably what do they call that?
Like if that was a kind of a common thing
etymology
back
of the
then.
word. There's
Yeah, like
probably
how did
a
it
way
get
to go back to taking on this.
to meaning a
Yeah.
different thing?
Well, in a
yeah.
lot of cultures, the rooster or the cock, it's virality, right? I mean, it's it's,
That's true.
So,
Yeah,
like if you go to Asia, a cock is a symbol of
Sure.
success
Power
and
success.
power,
Right.
So,
Right.
Okay.
So
Right.
we can go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. All of my Christian folks, we're really sorry about the language. I know some of you are going to get really burdened by that. But if you
Context.
didn't get the drinks, then
We have said cock over 100 times.
Context.
But it has chicken cock.
Chicken
it's
cock.
freaking
Well,
amazing.
I absolutely love chicken cock. In fact, this is a great time to play the chicken cock commercial.
Come on.
Right here it is.
I
We're going to
watched
line it
today.
up.
It's
So,
so
here we
good.
go. It's so good.
If you're wondering whether a bottle of chicken cock whiskey makes a great gift, the answer is absolutely. After all, it's a fine Kentucky straight bourbon that's had that name since 1856, when it was completely appropriate to name a whiskey chicken cock. That said, if you're worried your gift recipient might be offended, perhaps a better gift would be a pair of pliers to help remove the stick they've got up their chicken cock whiskey. A gift as memorable as its name.
Everybody's getting one for
That's
Christmas.
so great.
Everybody's getting one.
Everybody. In fact, you should. Christmas gifts. We got to have like a code like JB they can enter and,
Yeah,
and go
I was
online
just
and get gifts, Christmas
and you
gifts.
can order it online.
Absolutely.
Dude, you
order
gotta,
online.
you
Come
gotta
right
have
to
a special 10 made with a pair of pliers in it.
Oh my gosh.
Not for
Have you
everybody.
thought about it? Yeah.
Idea.
I'm sure I had to think about it.
Yeah, we definitely need to start selling pliers at our
Because
house.
it does
Oh
cut
my
chicken
gosh,
wire,
that would
right?
be
You
great.
know?
That would be
That's
funny.
great.
Even if they're just small keychain size, I don't know. That would be kind of probably cheesy, though. We need some good
Speaking
ones.
of merch,
we
I
need
love
some
that
good
hat.
ones, yeah.
I'm a hat guy. That's a great hat.
Yeah,
You know
we,
what's-
we sell
Is
a
that on
lot
the
of
website?
merch. Oh yeah.
All right.
And then at our tasting room in Bardstown. So we're the first branded tasting room in downtown Bardstown, which is the bourbon capital of the world. Great town, a lot of great distilleries all around it.
There it is,
And,
Brandon. $25.
And we've got,
What
it's
a
a
deal.
bar, lounge, retail shop, event space, a really cool spot. But we've got some really amazing merch there
it
that
looks
you can
cool.
only get there. But a lot of it you can also get on our website.
That's awesome. Well, and I assume social media also is a big thing. So you've got, I assume it was Chicken Cock Whiskey at Chicken Cock Whiskey for you.
Yeah,
So
on Instagram,
We'll be
it's
posting up
Chicken
the
Cock
Instagram
Whiskey
for
on
sure.
Instagram.
So we'll get that, but at Chicken Cock Whiskey at Instagram. But you guys, social media is also a big thing to kind of help brand, right? And
For sure.
put it out there and get it going for sure.
You're listening to What the Hell Do I Know with JB. JB with ADHD. Elemental B. Anyway, back to the show.
Yeah, the other thing, I also think you've got this great story. You talked about the Cotton Club, the name, how it's 1856. You said the other day, I think I heard you say you've even found examples of them distilling it back to 1840s.
Well, yeah, because we've done a lot of research, and we actually hired a historian who's a kind of a spirits historian, and they went into a full deep dive on it, and they showed that it was actually being distilled in the 1840s. So it's definitely one of the oldest brands in the United States, But for the early period of time in the bourbon space, it wasn't bottled. Things would just be sold by the barrel, and so the barrels were being taken from the distillery and they'd be transported down to a lot of places like New Orleans, as an example. And bourbon, you can make bourbon anywhere in the United States as long as you're using a new American white oak barrel, and it's at least 51% corn in the mash bill. But the bourbon from Bourbon County became just so popular and so coveted that it became kind of the name for the spirit.
Yeah, which is
everyone
crazy,
wanted
yeah.
the whiskey from Bourbon County, and so that just became known as bourbon.
Right.
And so, but yeah, we have we can show that it's kind of to go back to the 1840s. And then in 1856 is when we really see the first time the name being used in the marketplace.
Right, in
Yeah.
bottles of it,
Yeah.
right. Well, but you have all this rich history, and here this brand is coming back. You've got now what you like to call, and I've heard you say this a lot, is your everyday.
Yep.
Which is an incredible. This is just again, you can find it at chickencock.whiskey.com. But you talk about the everyday bottle, and it's bottled. I think you said it's kind of blended around 300 barrels. You blend it to get it consistent. We've also got up there the single barrel or
The small batch.
The small batch. So you're like 8 to 5 or 8 to 12
8 to 12 barrels. generally.
barrels.
Yep.
Same liquid, but you're getting very unique in the small batch world.
Same base. So I always say that our flagship bourbon is like the foundation, and kind of everything is built off of that
Gotcha.
foundation. So you moving from the everyday bourbon, which is really a blend of 4 to 6 year old liquid. The small batch is primarily 6 year old, so you get a couple years more age.
Okay.
And then it's also a little higher proof, so we go from 90 proof to 100 proof.
Gotcha.
So that's a big difference, and because we're taking the smaller amount of barrels, each batch, a small batch, is going to be a little bit different.
Sure.
A little bit more nuanced. With our flagship, we're looking at trying to have consistency. So if you get one bottle that was bottled, last year, one bottle this year,
It's gonna
generally
taste
it
generally.
should taste. It tastes about the same.
Gotcha. And I've noticed you have the rye. You've got is it 8 year or double?
Double oak, which
Double
we
oak.
put back into new American white oak barrels, and
Yep.
and that a lot of that is like 8 year old.
Amazing,
really cool
amazing
bottle.
as well.
Yeah.
All these price points start at kind of about $60 ish,
$60,
to
yep,
to
to
90 ish
500.
range, and then you've got
Yeah.
limited editions go at as much as 500.
Yeah. And
So
those,
if you're
will
really
sell
into
for
yeah.
a couple $1,000s in the secondary market.
Yeah,
Right.
because the chicken cock double oak's out of stock.
Out of stock right now, is that
We
right?
gotta do
yeah.
something about
We got to
that.
do something.
We gotta
about
talk
that
to
one.
somebody.
We got to do something
talk
about that
to
one.
somebody.
Yeah.
Looking
We
on
gotta talk to
eBay.
I'm gonna
somebody.
make some calls.
10
Matti,
grand
we
on
gotta
eBay.
get
I had that
done.
last night, and I think it's my favorite.
Wait, do we have one right
amazing.
here?
We don't have that one here.
it's
I'm-
really, really
now I
good.
might have it downstairs.
Yeah.
So I might
man.
not have set it up here on the table.
It's
I
one of
may
my
have it
favorite
downstairs.
packages as well. I
It
think
is.
the matte black top is. I mean, it's
Oh,
The
yeah.
top was like what they would use back in the 20s and 30s and 40s to essentially be the shot glass.
The shot
right?
glass, yeah,
they
yeah.
would twist it off, take the cork out, and pour a shot glass out of it.
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
so it's. I love the throwbacks you're doing, but with all that being said, that's the thing I love about this brand is you can have the greatest story in the world in a brand, but you got to have product.
Yep.
And it's got to be good.
You gotta have good.
And that's what I love about this brand. You have a story, but you have a great product. And where your price points start at 60 and go all the way up to these limited editions, they're all stellar. And
Yeah.
they can compete on any level in the bourbon world. That's what I love about it.
Well, they
for
got
sure.
the editor's choice bundle right here with 3 bottles for $200.
I
With the
like
double
that.
oak, and
Yep.
then they got the
Yep.
original, and then the rye.
The
That's the way
right.
to
That's
go.
the package.
That, honestly,
right there.
that is a great
That is
package.
your
Those
Christmas
are 3 of
present.
my favorite
That
right
is a
there.
great
That's what you're
Christmas
getting. That's what
present.
you're getting.
Oh, hell
I'm
yeah.
in. I'm in.
That's what you're getting.
We just got to figure out who the editor is. But
Yeah, the editor's choice.
In
Yeah, who is
fact,
that?
comment on this podcast and the first comment on YouTube or Apple Podcast will get that package sent to you.
Wait, can I
Can I-
comment?
You
Or
are
me and Brandon
excluded
all-
from the
Oh,
comment.
come on. Hold on. Let me text Magic Mike. Where's my phone?
Get on the
Magic
text
Mike.
Magic
Get
Mike.
on it now, baby. Family. Well, I hate to not.
Nah,
exclude
no.
them. I feel like family's almost got to be excluded.
No, it's
I
got to
don't know.
be. It can't be nobody we know. Let's say
Yeah,
that, maybe.
I don't
Well,
know, because
I
a
don't
lot of
know.
people know us at this
I
point.
know.
I don't want to put. I don't like the
Screw
whole
it, no.
disclaimers, So just to first comment.
First one.
First
My
one.
mom's going to be the first comment, all right? We know this. Or your mom. One of the Cathys is going to be the first comment.
I
Because
don't
they're
think my
like,
mom's ever seen this.
They're like, oh, what time's
No.
it drop? Well, your mom doesn't have a computer.
She's got a flip phone. I got to talk to Mom. I love you, Mom.
They don't got internet in Indiana, dude. Come on.
They got internets. They got the interwebs.
They
up
got
there.
the interwebs.
So we know chicken cock's really good, but what does where's the secret sauce kind of start with? I mean, what does it start with in the liquid? Where do you think without giving the formula away.
No, let's get. Let me hold on. Let me get my pen.
How you make this
So
stuff?
you're telling
What
me?
would you say is kind of the top 3 things you feel like you guys really have to focus on to make sure that you're getting the right, and it may be more than that. You may not give me 3. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things, but it's, I mean, so much of the process with bourbon is the barrel, right? So, we spend a lot of time, working with the cooperages and making sure that the barrel's to spec and that,
Now, when you say cooperages, just so our audience understands.
Those are the companies that are actually making the barrels.
Okay,
right?
the barrels,
So they're going out, they're harvesting the American white oak. They're forming the barrels, they're charring the barrels. They're doing the work that really needs to create the optimal aging situation environment within the barrel, right? Because you're taking the new fill liquid, and you are adjusting based on the mash bill and the recipe. Kind of what if you have more wheat, it's going to be a little sweeter. If more rye, it's gonna be a little spicier. So you're doing things on the front end that that will have an outcome on the taste. But you're ultimately putting an unaged liquid in a barrel, and you really need that barrel to work its magic over a period of time. So if you're not using the right barrel, there can be problems.
Having that right, new American barrel.
Yep, new and with bourbon you have to
barrels.
use new barrels.
Okay.
So if you use an old used barrel, it can't be called bourbon.
Gotcha.
So it has to be. So once we use those barrels, once we dump the barrels, then most of those barrels are going to Scotland for the Scotch industry. A lot are going to the Caribbean for rum.
So the resale market, or
it's it's a pretty good. I mean, it's a robust.
Or you trade it out with the folks over in California.
And we get a lot of trading. We get Syrah barrels, we get cognac barrels.
Sure.
It's fun, and that's one of the fun things about the industry is there's everyone's competitor at a certain point, but there's also a lot of collaboration.
So the barrel means something.
Smaller guys.
Getting really good barrels and understanding that wood.
Yep.
And that white oak means really that. So that's like key, essential.
The barrel's key, and then having the right process around the production, right? There's variety there, right? And so we've always worked with really good folks on the production side, starting with Bardstown Bourbon Company that has been a great partner of ours since the beginning. Started by a great friend of mine, David Mandel. And then now
they've got a great whiskey too, for sure.
Great whiskey, and we were one of the first brands in their collaborative distillers program. He's just opened up a new distillery called Whiskey House in Elizabethtown, which is just beyond. I mean,
great.
He's just done such an amazing
Sounds
job.
like a great place to do a podcast.
Well, what's fun is that we did a tasting today at Craft Bar. So shout out Craft Bar. We love those people there. I mean, they
episode 10, holla.
Yeah, holla, episode 10.
I love those
they're
people.
great, and Heather was there, and so it's amazing.
So
But
it went well, huh? Yeah,
it did. But Heather said, and you're kind of keying in on this, that the relationship all of you have in that Kentucky area is really pretty cordial. I mean, you guys, while you're competitors, you still, treat people really well.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that Southern hospitality, right? And listen, I mean, there are people who are new to the game, and there are people who have been in the game generations, right? And so, I think, and I think it's one of those things with whiskey, because you're having to sit there and kind of stare at barrels for a while, and you have to have the patience. It's it kind of promotes, the civility in the industry, and bourbon really, I mean, it was a category that there wasn't a ton of growth for a long time. And then, starting in kind of after the economic downturn, so you kind of post 2008, 2009, you started seeing like it rediscovered as the quintessential American spirit. And at that point, the industry was kind of caught short. Right, because they've just been laying down enough whiskey to, based on what they had sold previously, and then all of a sudden it like exploded, and they're like, "Well, we don't have enough."
And it's the long game, as you said earlier, right? You're not producing it today and selling it tomorrow. I mean, it takes some.
So you got to buy more barrels.
Age it. You got to buy barrels. You got to age it. You got all this.
I was gonna. How much is a barrel? Like, are we talking about just like the ones you see on the movies, or like this is a gigantic barrel?
No, it's like a wine barrel.
Okay, wine barrel. So
so it's and there's but in our rick houses, so we're what we call
and
our
rick house is storage, right?
Storage areas. You might have anywhere from 30 to 50,000 barrels in there.
Oh wow, jeez.
And it's a very it's a cordial one, and they really work together. So like the Kentucky Distillers Association, the KDA, is an amazing organization that brings together all the distillers in Kentucky and then really promotes bourbon, not just in the United States but also internationally.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things. It's like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes,
right. And
right,
so,
right.
It's not. There are some who are maybe a little bit more competitive than others, and don't play as well with others. But generally, everyone's like, listen, the bourbon industry grows. Everyone's going to do.
That's
well.
right. That's
Well, you
exactly
told
right.
us last night that 85% consumed in America, right? So there's a lot of room for growth.
Lot of
dude.
room for
A
growth.
ton
I
of
mean,
room for
There's
growth.
a whole world out there.
Wow.
International
I mean,
is like
yeah.
The unicorn.
the unicorn.
I'd like to invest in chicken cock right now.
It's always one of those things where it's like if just 1% of China consumes
Right,
bourbon,
Exactly.
it's
No
like,
kid. You like double. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah,
Right.
India's that way. India's like a big target market.
No
right now.
Really?
Yeah.
The middle class has exploded.
Exploding. I mean, to your
Yeah.
point about billionaires,
Yeah.
I mean, I think India's
Yeah.
producing more
Producing some now,
billionaires.
yeah,
I mean, it's
maybe.
crazy.
Yeah.
But, and that younger consumer in India.
But shout out to
they're-
India. We've got a lot of listeners in
yeah,
India.
Come on, man.
We have a lot of followers in India.
And that's a very, it's a whiskey culture. But as they're kind of stepping into this, this new era they're also trying to embrace things that aren't maybe totally attached to their British past, right? And so bourbon's starting to step in there and being like, we're kind of the cool kids. And, we're a little sweeter. We go better with the food. And,
that's right.
And so,
That is true.
You've got a lot of
That is
pairing
true.
with bourbon too that I think happens.
Yeah.
It's similar to wine in that
It
world.
is.
Yeah.
And it's funny you said how all tide rises. With bourbon as all bourbons will. California wines. Remember they were kind of laughed at, and then you had that one big tasting all those years ago, and then man.
the judgment of Paris.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And now, if you're a California wine, and you're from Sonoma or Napa, and now it's even branching out into other areas that they have outside of just Sonoma and Napa, you really have a kind of a leg up on competition to a degree.
Yeah, without
and
a
Oregon's starting to get there. We're starting to see some different.
Yeah, you would
some
think
great
it'd be
stuff
pretty
coming
good
out.
up there,
So,
yeah.
Well, it is. So I have to say there's some incredible Oregon wines that I've had as well. But that California just.
Well, it's got the badge value, and
it
that's,
does.
and that's
Yeah.
what Kentucky has.
Yep.
I mean, you could,
Yep.
there's some really great bourbons that are produced outside of Kentucky, but Kentucky and bourbon are like, they're
Two peas in a pod.
Two peas in a pod.
And so, and especially as you go outside the United States, the expectation is that bourbon is from Kentucky.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that. All right, so we're back. Back with that $2.50 podcast.
Yeah, are we up to
You
$2.50?
we probably have a seamless edit here. Yeah, so we're really good. We just like to check the batteries and
Yeah,
make
the
sure
battery's
that the
working.
cameras
Look,
continue to go.
If all donations go to juiceellis@paypal.com. Just holla, and we'll make sure it gets.
Is that like one of those girls coming down here on like it's my spring break?
got 'em.
Buy me a shot.
Yeah, dude, that's so annoying.
I know, right? Right.
I'm
Well,
on my bachelorette party.
while we come back, I do want to give a shout out to today's show sponsor. It's Chicken Cock. ChickenCockWhiskey.com. Known as the famous old brand, Chicken Cock is one of the oldest American whiskey brands, established in 1856 in Paris, Kentucky. Our whiskey has reclaimed its rightful place among the best heritage American whiskey. What I love about Chicken Cock is its every day has gone to places like American Spirits Council of Tasters Award, double platinum, San Francisco World Spirits Competition, double gold, Ultimate Spirits Challenge, 94 points, the South's Best Spirits Competition, double gold, Beverage Tasting Institute, gold medal, the Tasting Panel Magazine, 95 points, the Ultimate Spirits Challenge, 92 points, and the International Review of Spirits, gold medal. So everywhere you go, Chicken Cock is on everybody that tastes it and likes bourbon. It is on the top of their
Do you walk into these things like with some swagger now? Like, we might win another one.
Matti is so humble. He is chill,
so
right?
humble.
So humble.
You're
right?
so humble.
You're just trying to make good bourbon.
I'm just trying to make good bourbon.
You're just a dude over here trying to make good bourbon.
Well, according to him, it's all about the barrels. He didn't even do anything. He just throwing it all in there. Let the barrels do the work.
Those 100-year-old trees.
It's just the earth.
It's the white
earth.
oaks, man.
Yeah.
It's the earth.
It's the earth.
That's the truth, though. He's right.
That's so good.
We're just passing through.
Yep, just passing through, trying to make people happy. You know, that's right. This is, I mean, what a great way to have, open up a bottle of bourbon with some friends and sit around. I mean, we do it all the time. We're watching games. We have a nice bourbon. We do a podcast. We have a nice bourbon.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing way, though, to just, share a good time.
Yeah.
Share a laugh, sit down. It's I do it with wine as well, but I really enjoy if I'm doing it with bourbon, I'm doing it.
You know who's going to comment
always.
first for that bundle is Joe Chapman. Just
He's not Joe.
Joe
Disclaimer:
is not allowed.
Joe's not allowed.
We're saying the Cathys and Joe are not allowed.
So, quote of the day. Now it's time. Quote of the day by Tay Tay. So, Tay Tay said, "Whiskey on ice, sunset and vine. You've ruined my life, but." By not being mine, from her song "Gorgeous." It's the one song she has the word whiskey in.
The one, and you look
the one song, and I found it. So take day. So absolutely, I thought it was kind of apropos to today's segment.
I like it.
Whiskey on ice, sunset and vine. You've ruined my life by not being mine.
How many songs does she have the word seltzer in? Like 50?
I don't think she has any
Zero. I
truly.
don't know.
There's nothing that rhymes
With
for her
seltzer?
for truly.
Oh, truly, yeah. Yeah.
I found in this vacation, this last time we went to Europe, and Matti, we spent 3 weeks in Europe. We took the kids. It was kind of one of the last times we get to do this, where we grabbed all of them together, the 5 of us, and we went on this really epic trip, 3 weeks, started in Greece, ended in Rome. Amazing time. We started on a cruise ship right outside of Venice, and as we were getting on the cruise ship, I just don't do well with lines. I found
who
things are
does?
slow. I do terrible, and in Europe you would say the queue. So I don't do the queue. Standing in the queue, and I do okay with patience to a degree, but then you've got just some weird stuff, and we hit the lines, and they had all these different rules that I didn't understand, and then we get to this security we've got to go through, and they need additional issues, and so let's just say I'm not a perfect person. I hope people don't see me that know me that would see it, because they're kind of seeing my end, and my kids are like watching me as they're now young adults, and they look at me and they're like, "Dad, kind of off brand here. You're gonna get canceled." So I'm like, yeah, I guess I kind of was. I was like, don't judge me for how I am in a TSA line, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, you're going to cancel. I'm like, then I'm kind of like, well, who watches this? I mean, we're just a $10 podcast.
Wait, what were you doing, man? Were you throwing stuff?
I wasn't throwing stuff. I think I just was getting aggravated. I think I was.
Yeah.
I think I was
Shinoki.
aggravated, and I think I let my aggravation come out. And there's probably it's rude American. And
Slash
I don't want to
David
give that
Panini.
impression, but I think I had a bad moment.
Yeah.
And the kids are like, "Dad, you're going to get canceled before you even get started here. You're off brand. And so, I mean, but you do have to have a brand, right? As a father and a husband and out in public. I mean, do we even think about that? I mean, do you think people go through their day thinking like, what is my brand? What is my personal brand?
I'm sure there's a lot of people.
I mean, I guess social media, everybody has a brand, right?
brand.
If you're an influencer, and I've been putting out reels and doing stuff.
What can
and
I
so
do
people
better?
think that, right?
Get more
And so there
noticed.
is a brand that you're putting out online, but that is kind of, like smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
and,
you might not be
the best of what
consciously
you
know
have,
you're
right?
doing it. Yeah, you might not know you're doing it, but you are.
Right, but
yeah.
you're putting a brand out when you're walking through the
Yeah.
world. I mean, Matti, do you feel like, that's an important thing, is to like be I guess conscious of the fact that you have, or self-aware that you have a brand that you're putting out to your kids, to your wife, to your parents, to those that you interact with on a daily basis?
Yeah. I mean, I think especially when you have kids, right? I mean, you're going to be an influence, positive, negative, probably both,
Right.
And I would say for me and I've got 2 daughters, 16 and 14, and it's amazing seeing them become these just awesome women,
Right.
basically, and and started they're starting to kind of spread their wings, and as hard as that is as a parent, right? You're like this is kind of the point.
That's the point.
We had a conversation with a friend the other day, and we actually, both my daughters go to boarding school, which is their choice, and these are amazing schools and just amazing opportunity. But, we're now empty nesters.
Right.
And which is just a really hard thing to kind of wrap our head around. But a friend of mine, she told my wife, she's like, no, you're like a bird launcher. You're a bird launcher. And, which is a kind of a cool way to think about it. And so,
is that like Angry Birds? Where you
no, hopefully not so aggressive. It's a gentle bird launcher. Gentle bird. And now we're going through the college process with my 16-year-old, and starting to look at schools and talking about, like, well, what do you want to do in your life, right?
Sure.
What interests you? I mean, you don't. There's not one direction, right? You've got, and what an amazing age, right? Because
it's hard to know, yeah.
You're like the whole world's your oyster.
Sure.
And it's a really cool time, but it's also can be overwhelming. And so I think about, what influence did I have as a father, and will I continue to have? And for me, it's really, I think, just my journey as an entrepreneur.
It's great.
It's like, hey, take risks, try things, like come up with, crazy ideas and like see if it works. And if it doesn't, fine. At least you got up to bat.
Well, when you're younger, right? No liabilities. That's the time you should really be diving into that.
Well, you should really do it. And then as you get older, it's like you got to keep that, you got to keep that going. Obviously,
it becomes more measured.
You measured, hopefully not totally irrational risk. And, you got a lot of people relying on you. And the same thing as, when you're running a business, right? You've got to... You don't want to go too crazy and
because you got employees and they've got families, and so you care about.
They rely on you, and it is the hard part of being in charge of something, because how you view the world is different than potentially how your employees view the world, right? And what they're relying on you to kind of keep things kind of in a certain direction. But I've always felt, for me, I've always wanted to be perceived. The brands are great. Chicken Cock's great. I'm kind of known for a lot of that. But it's really about just really being a creative brand builder.
Yeah.
And being able to take things that, like opportunities that are out there and really kind of put a creative spin on them and kind of bring together a great team to bring things to life. And I'm a pretty humble person. I'm not looking to be out, in front of anything, waving a flag.
That's the finish, yeah.
That's the finish, It's like and so for me, it's not about recognition. For me, it's like I want the brands to get the recognition. I want the people around to do, because I just love to be home with my family and with friends and stuff like that. I don't need to be famous.
Yes.
But I get really bored if I'm not doing creative things.
Yeah.
And so, it's that thing of like, hey, to take some risks. Like, do you do some interesting things? Like, lean into things that maybe you're not, like, you might not be great at.
Sure.
Right? But
that's a great advice.
You don't know unless you try and kind of, and then.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And then the other thing I've always told my kids is, like, everyone was a beginner. Like, no matter how great someone was, at one point they were a beginner at it, right? And so, and really helpful in sports. My eldest daughter's a great golfer, and
nice.
she kicks my butt now. She's she's kind of low single digits.
Oh,
she just
she
like, I finally decided to make her play from the men's season. She's
still
but
awesome.
she makes us. I was like, listen. Everyone makes mistakes. The best golfer out there, they're getting double bogeys. It's how they respond.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
But you have to be excited to, like,
short-term memory.
Be in a bad spot, because, like, hey, that's a shot maybe you've never taken before. Like, maybe you can curve it around this tree. Maybe you can do these things. It's like, it's boring if everything's in the middle of the fairway.
I always
I've
tell.
never had that boring life.
Right.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
It'd be nice, but probably get boring.
And that translates right into business. I mean, today I'm 47 years old, and I know, crazy, right? But I am a better investor today than I was 10 years ago, and it's because of failures. I've had things that have gone bad. I've had relationships in business gone bad. I've had, of course, things that have gone great. But but really though, you learn, right?
Live and learn,
and it helps you make different decisions. The decisions today that I'd make are just different than what I'd make 10 years ago. But you have to take that risk. You have to be willing to step out there and do some things that allow you those opportunities. And just like in the golfers that have short-term memories, right? The best golfers, they have to move on to the next shot. In business, you have to too. You need to learn the lesson, but then you need to be able to let go.
And I think a lot of it is it's forgiveness, right?
Sure.
Because we can all sit back and say, I wish I'd done that differently. But it's like, hey, but if you didn't do it that way, maybe you wouldn't have learned and you wouldn't be here, right? So it's all part of the journey. You just have to forgive yourself, forgive everyone else, and just be like, hey, that was just part of the journey. And
life's too short.
Life's too short.
Life's too short, and it's hard. And when you really get some self-awareness around your own issues, you can have grace for everybody else too, right? You can really get grace for them. As a father, I also think conversations are so important with your kids. But what I've found is that you have to have lots of them, and they have to be smaller to get to the bigger ones. I've said this before. I feel like you have to have lots of small conversations so that they'll trust you with the bigger ones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel the same way? Are you kind of on that? I mean, you've got to be available for it because where your kids are now, I feel like, in large part, our kids are about the same age. I've got, I think, one a little older. But my younger ones are about the same age as yours, Matti. And I think I read something like when they hit like 18, it's like 80% of your parenting is kind of done, right? The influence is.
Or you said some stat where you see them like at that point in life. You see them.
Well, you see them less, right?
Yeah.
That's it. You're going to see them a lot less in life. So the outside influences, and yours may be even, but being away, have more of an outside influence as well on them.
Right.
And so your role becomes more of kind of this caretaker, this advice giver, this person to bounce ideas off of, and then of course always a protector, right? You're always going to be there to protect. You're always going to be in their corner, but
always got their back,
right? So
they need to go out.
So it does change. I mean, what do you think are some of the things that can help to nurture that? I mean, aside from just conversations, I mean, maybe that's it. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've found is, especially with $2, I mean, one-on-one time with each, and they're individuals, right?
Yeah,
so my eldest daughter is different than my youngest daughter,
different,
and they're
aren't
just like
such a good call, Matti.
And so having that understanding of what kind of what jives with one and doesn't with the other, and I think more and more time doing, and we've started doing like I'll do one-on-one trips, with them, and then switch off, and
what a great
they're
thing.
Just very very different things they want to do. Also, my wife is amazing, as all of our wives are. But,
sure.
They go to my wife for very different things than they go for me, right? I like to go to bed early. So does my wife, but she stays up all night long talking to the girls, right? And,
my wife as well.
And that's and she takes that, and I'm just like I'm going to bed,
right?
But they need that emotional support. They go to her. They need stuff, and they can come to me for emotional support too. But like they generally come to me when they're like they need to get stuff done. Right? They need to there's something that needs to be addressed, and they need a plan. They need help with the plan. It's like let's structure this. Let's execute.
Well, I think sometimes my wife's listening skills can be better than mine. So she does it better. I know I had my daughter on, and she rated me like a 6.1 on my listening skills. I was like, but I've got a lot going on.
Well, only because you wouldn't let them go under 5.
I wouldn't let him go under 5.
You said 5 was the bottom, and she's like, really?
Like deadbeat dad. So I was like, it's my show. 5 to 10 was my rating.
Yeah.
So, but I think my wife listens better, but they know though that they know whatever they say to my mother or their mother is coming back to me.
Right.
So I found sometimes as they say things, I think they go to her because she's listening for us. And then I also think she has a better poker face or whatever.
She's a
sometimes.
filter.
Yes. And so then
They know
she
how to
tells
play
me,
that,
but
dude.
then I'll actually circle back around many times, especially if it's a bigger conversation, and I'll still have it with them.
Yeah.
I'll say, talk to your mom. I understand what you're going through. Like,
Well, and it's
here's
a
my
different
thoughts,
perspective.
but it's a different perspective.
And that's that's the great thing. I mean, I grew up with single. It was just my mother, and so I didn't have my father around. But and I'm like amazed at the wonderful job she did.
Right.
Without having that second parent there, because now
Moms
being,
are the best.
Yeah,
it's
dude,
like moms, I mean, are amazing.
Oh my gosh.
But that's
Almost
the great thing about being
unworldly.
in a marriage, raising kids, as long as you're getting along as a married couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
is,
It's a huge difference.
You can kind of play like both in, and
You're exactly right.
and it's so that's been that's been a critical part of obviously raising our girls. But it's fun. But I am definitely the one that will push them. I'm the risk taker. My wife makes sure like the house isn't burning down.
That's why moms are great.
What a great balance!
Yeah,
what a great
the
balance.
So you
is
so
have both.
critical.
You gotta have both.
Yeah.
If Jennifer were on right now, she'd be like, hey, like in the 22 years we've known each other, it's like I was able to push her out of her comfort zone.
Sure.
Well,
you grow each other, right?
Yeah.
Nothing ever. You either grow together or grow apart, right?
So it's it's great, and I think that influence on our kids has been great because I see kind of elements of both of us in them, and that makes you a pretty proud
That's good,
papa.
Well, and it's you brought something up because there are relationships out there that husbands and wives that are, if you're battling it out and you're just, it used to be kind of the thing, and back in the day was like, well, we're staying together for the kids.
Right.
But if you talk to adult kids, they would tell you, I wish they didn't stay together for the
Those
kids.
were rough years.
Because you get this
Complete opposite advice.
Right. It's like I'm getting like this really bad instruction on how marriages should behave. Right.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful, parents. I mean, if you're out there, there's a brand to your marriage.
Oh yeah.
And to your kids.
They're going to take advice from
right?
both and meet in the middle. Probably that's usually how it works, right?
They want to see
Mom
it
says
working.
this, Dad says this.
Our kids feel it if we're not jiving. They know.
They know.
They feel the tension.
They know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're slapping people with gyros getting on a cruise ship, they know, man. They can tell. You can't be doing
and again,
that. You can't be doing that, bro. You got to chill out. You got a reputation.
Well, a piece of advice I would also give parents is, quite frankly, I think if any kind of counseling you guys need, parental counseling can be great. I also looked like small groups, community groups, different things. Like find yourself some other like-minded parents around. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be a faith-based thing, but if you're into faith-based thing, I think there's small groups and things like that in your churches. But I mean, I think finding other parents. You talked about like you had a couple that you're together that were giving you great advice.
That you do
I think
life
it helps to do life with some other couples and be able to talk about these deeper sort of things that can help make sure you're in check. Believe it or not, you may not know all the answers. So,
they might already have that experience.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's an important piece of advice. Matti, how do you balance like work and building, this brand outside your family, but then also this brand of your family? How do you balance that?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, especially now, benefit of hindsight. I mean, I look back on like when my kids were young, and I was like, God, I wish I didn't travel as much. I wish I'd been there and, you kind of rationalize a lot of things, but it's, I think for me, one is, when I'm home. Intentional, right? And, and I spend a lot of time with the kids. Luckily, especially my eldest one, shares a passion with me in golf. But my youngest one, we like to rock climb.
Very cool.
Outdoors.
Very cool.
And so, it's finding the time to connect at that level. And then, I would say probably the hardest part for me has been being really intentional about the time with my wife. Right? Because especially when you're raising kids, it's about the kids and you're traveling, you're working, you're like, I gotta do all this stuff to kind of make the family secure, and worrying about the business and and you're like, oh man, we gotta also, do this relationship thing. To your point, make sure that everything is.
You got to make sure you've got to invest in it.
Real time.
So that's been I think, and I haven't been done a perfect job of that, but it's like it's having the awareness. I think is really critical, and I think that's where hopefully with age we get more awareness.
I hope so. I mean, listen, there's
just
a lot of people.
It keeps better.
There's a lot of people I walk around this world just completely self-aware. It's actually one of my biggest pet peeves. It's something that I think you have to grasp awareness. You have to be able to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong?
Right.
Because we're so easy to be out there just.
Oh yeah, the people that drive slow in the left lane. Yeah, those people. I know
right. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah. They're not aware
left lane
that
campers.
They're the only ones driving on the road.
On the planet.
Right? They're not aware.
It's all about me. What's your handicap at golf?
So I'm not that great. I mean, I'm okay, but I'm a 10, but my daughter's a 6.
Pretty good to me.
Holy cow.
So
Do you play in college and stuff or no?
No.
Just play a lot. Yeah,
You got to play a lot.
that's pretty good though.
That's amazing. Both of those handicaps
I would
are
take it
a lot
any
better
day.
than
Yeah,
mine.
he should have played while he was here.
we
this week.
give her 12 months and she'll probably be at 2.
Jeez.
Wow.
So she's going to play
clean
hopefully.
some stuff up on the short game.
So she could get a golf scholarship potentially.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's what
So-
he's
Oh, heck yeah.
we were talking about earlier.
She
today,
will
yeah.
play in college if that is what she wants to do.
Georgia's
Yeah.
pretty good at golf, right?
They do have
are.
a great golf team.
Yeah.
You know, Bubba Watson. Bubba Watson went to Georgia.
I thought you were
Yep.
going to say Bubba
Yeah.
Sparks, dude. Yeah,
No,
Bubba Watson.
There's the other guy that everybody loves to hate went to Georgia too. The golfer that everybody seems to hate. He's a real easy golfer.
Not John Daly.
No, he's a
Everybody
younger
loves
guy.
John.
Yeah, I like John Daly.
Well, Kisner went to Georgia, but
Did he?
no one hates him.
No, Kisner would know who this is, but he's kind of a heavier set.
No, I know the
golfer.
guy. I like him. I'm still
I
a
just
fan
can't
of the
think
guy.
of his name.
He was always great in Ryder Cup. What's his name?
Maybe he was. I need to. If you're watching this and you know the guy's name, tell me.
Yeah.
So it'd be great. I have to.
Do
look
they
it
get
up.
a bottle of chicken cock if they know the answer? And they
No, no, we're not doing that for everybody.
Cool, man.
So, so I mean, amazing stuff. You know, you're totally right about intentionality, and you're totally right about. I think you and your wife need to like each other. There's going to be a time and place when the kids are gone, like you said, you're empty, and you're left there looking at each other, going like, "Did we made it, and I'm happy, or we made it, and like I'm out?" You know, and so there gets this weird world, and I'm very fortunate. My wife was she was even more intentional than me in saying we need to do a date night. So
Yeah.
most people know this. But
That's
I
a
think it was
good
like
idea,
12
yeah.
years.
It's so
12 years ago, we set Friday nights to be our date night, and that has been our date night for almost 12 years. Every Friday night. I mean, other than look, vacations, whatever,
Yeah.
things happen, come up, and you can't do it. So if there's 52 weeks in a year, we're doing 30 weeks out, probably
Yeah, I
more.
need to get on that,
Is
actually.
a Friday night date night,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. The one key I would tell you about your date night is, it always works better if I can help plan, so I'm a part of it, versus her doing that. There's moments and seasons
No,
that it's
you
on
gotta
her, and
jump in there, dudes.
So I do think if you can help, I'm
just take
giving
turns
advice
each
that I
week,
also
yeah.
need to take. But the other thing is to just to be intentional when you're together, and have conversations, and to because I want to. The great thing about it is it's drawn us closer, and it's been sometimes the week can be so erratic, and coming into that Friday we get to kind of reset.
Yeah.
How was your week? What did I miss? What's going on? And kind of a reset for us. And so it's
I imagine you look
it's an
forward to
amazing
it,
time.
right? I would look
Oh,
forward
we
to
both
it,
look
yeah.
forward to it. It's an amazing time, and we try to throw in different things. But and then the other key I would tell you, and I think this is almost maybe the number one key, is if you have kids. We had young. We waited until our third was old enough. We felt like we could do the babysitter thing, right? Mm-hmm. Tip them well.
Tip your babysitter well.
Tip your babysitter
if they're good.
well. I have one babysitter that still follows me on social media. Love her. Shout out Sunny. And but she babysat all our kids, and she would tell you she would remove anything she had to do for any Friday night because we tipped
That's a good tip.
well.
Yeah.
So tip them well. Take
That
care
makes sense, yeah.
of the sitters.
What's the
Reliable
babysitter?
Child
Yeah.
care is it's
That
important.
reliable child care. Well, now it is time to.
Here he is.
Oh, juice, where are you? We're waiting patiently for what you do. Google Guru, he'll make it right. In a flash, he'll solve the fight. Oh man, he's good at poker, that's right.
Jokes.
All right. What is something you look forward to every day?
Forward to every. This is a question,
It's a question
for
for the group,
everybody.
but
This is gonna
what is
sound
something you look
so-
Again,
I'll
parents.
start it
Well,
out.
while everybody's thinking, parents delve cards, DELVE, delve cards. I say this all the time, every episode. You've got to check them out because it is an incredible conversation for anyone, but especially for kids because they get in the car, they get around the dinner table. How is school? Oh, it's okay, whatever. These are incredible questions that you can pull out that are great family starters for conversation. So
You got it, Brandon?
This is gonna sound hokey. So
I want to know.
I love waking up and seeing my wife's face.
Oh,
I know. It sounds so goofy.
Gosh, almighty.
It is the best part of my day. It's the best part of my day.
Crystal's awesome.
I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Look at me.
So what?
Look at you.
So
look
you
at me,
you
look at
must
you.
you must be in the doghouse, or you're preparing
Yeah,
to
which
be in the
one
doghouse.
is it? Not. I just tried.
Did you see the question before?
I'm
Yeah.
not. But I'm telling you, that's the best part of my day. I love it.
That's great.
Mine's a nightly glass of chicken cock whiskey.
That's second. That's second.
Got him. Absolutely. I mean, every day. Every day.
Something to look forward to every day.
I screwed you guys with mine.
Yeah, I feel like I could go that
Yours
route.
is pretty easy.
now.
Your wife's cooking's
I
pretty
love,
damn good.
I love
Oh,
waking up in
man.
bed with my wife every
Danielle
morning.
can cook.
Danielle's cooking
man.
for sure. Like
I wake up in
dinner
bed
at
with
our
my
house
baby and my
is
wife.
insane. Whichever she's making down there, I can tell that it's
got a little-
it's I'm excited about the I think it's like
It's like, oh,
fajitas or
Everything your
tacos
wife
or something.
makes
It's
is
going to be
amazing.
great. Yeah, so it'll be great. I would say dinner's probably pretty good every day. There was a time when the kids were younger, I really looked forward to them coming home from school. There was that when they were really young and they would kind of come in the door,
That's going
for pick
away.
up. It
Keep
was
that for as long
yeah. So that and even now when they come back, but it's not every day. So then it was kind of pretty much every day. That was a lot of fun. I do think Danielle's cooking's amazing. So I look forward to that. That's good.
I do too.
Sunset view is pretty damn good too.
Well, but it's not every day because you have the clouds. But I would say sunset time here,
it's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
amazing.
Well,
Yeah, Matti, do you have anything?
yeah. I mean, I would say back when the kids were younger, the same thing we had when they were coming home.
Yeah, I
was
can
pretty
see that.
amazing. Now I think it's really it's waking up. I will be more intentional about. I always give my wife a kiss when I wake up earlier.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
wife
morning.
loves
I
you.
feel like there's that morning breath. I'm like, let me do the brushing the
I need
teeth.
a little peck, but I love my mornings. I like waking up early. I like going through my routine. I like having just the quiet.
Yeah,
and I go
I do
through
that
kind of all kinds of stuff.
Are you a
Now-
coffee drinker?
So I do love coffee. I don't need coffee, but I
Okay.
do enjoy the whole ritual of coffee. But I usually wait a while. But now as a little older, like now I have to stretch, and so I go through stretching routine. I meditate. I journal.
Great.
And I just have. And when I have the time to do all that, it's like the best start of the day. And so.
Great
That's
advice.
what I look forward to.
Great advice. I like that. Mike Anderson talked about that kind of this morning routine.
Yeah,
and
that's- I had the
discipline,
same,
and
yeah.
that's actually really smart.
It's really one of the only. It's something you can control.
Yeah.
Right before the
world
craziness
wakes
of the
up.
world wakes up, and it makes you have to get up a little early.
It's funny when
yeah.
you're like 18, 19, 20, you're like, I got to be in work in 30 minutes, and you wake up and you're at work. Now it's like, I need an hour, bro.
I need 3
I need an
hours to
hour
get out the
before I do
door.
anything. It's crazy the older you get, how much.
There's days I need an hour just to get out of bed.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Why do I hurt there?
Yeah.
Why does that hurt?
Well, that's what's so bad about old age. I was listening to somebody the other day, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about the Mike Tyson fight that's coming up with, I guess, Jake Paul or whatever, and they were asking about fighting, and they were like, he should never fight. He's 50-something years old. This shouldn't even happen. And they were like, well, he looks to be in great shape. I was like, dude, I'm like, 47 or 51, and I woke up the other day and my back hurts and I don't even know why. You're not the same person anymore. You're not.
You don't rally fast. It's just like why is it 3 days to recover from that?
I have a great friend, Charlie Engel, who's this epic ultra distance athlete, and he's run across the Sahara Desert. He does things that are just like they are inconceivable. But I was catching up with him recently, and he injured himself, and so he was talking about it. And I was like, "What'd you do?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he was like, "I went to the doctor, and the doctor asked." And he's like, I just kind of woke up, and I was like, and he's like, you're getting older when you injure yourself in your sleep.
Yeah. It's bad.
I do it every night, bro.
Every night I'm fighting. I'm like, why do I hurt right now?
You can like sleep in a
It's
coffin and
2:30.
not move. Yeah.
Well, Matti Antilla.
What?
Antilla.
$20. Matti Antilla.
Yeah, we need the little
Matti
the jar,
Antilla.
like
Yeah,
the swear
no kidding.
jar.
I
Every
know.
time you get it wrong, you got to put in $20.
I parlayed it.
Antilla.
No, I had a
Matti.
four messing the name up wrong 4-time parlay, so it's like $200 payout.
Yeah, $200 payout. But honestly, it's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah,
on.
man.
I really appreciate your friendship, and then thank you so much for giving us chicken cock.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
We're so excited about it. We love it. This is a time of show I like to call Listen Up, Kids. So listen up, kids. I have more than once found myself in a sticky situation sometimes in business. There was once a time in business that I was involved with where things were full of chaos. And in the midst of the chaos, I thought about walking away, just looking at the chaos. Was it worth it? And I had a trusted advisor that told me that would be off brand for you. That's what do you mean? He said, your brand is to tough it out. That's who you are. Your brand is to try to be the voice of reason and have integrity in a situation that seems like there's no integrity. And I thought, wow, it was such a compliment. Little did he know, right? But ultimately, I did stick it out. But what is your brand? In your life, what are the threads that you're leaving around? What are people pulling on? What is the impression that you're leaving them with? And I would tell you, leave no doubt about what your brand is, and then do your best to stay on point on what your brand is. Or don't. I mean, what the hell do I know?
What?
You've been listening to What the Hell Do I Know with JB. JB has worn quite a few hats. CEO, venture investor, accidental pastor of a downtown Atlanta church, board member, passive investor, and occasional public speaker. JB's passion with his show is sharing the good, the bad, and the downright absurd. Life's a mixture, right? JB has picked up some real gems along this journey. Lessons from the business world, the chaos of parenting, and the surprises of accidental leadership. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find Jason on Instagram at _Jason_Becker. Y'all be cool, and we'll see you next time.